Long before heroes were forced into a cosmic arena, long before the universe crowned a single winner, King Omega, the universe was already breaking. Time itself had started to collapse. Across the multiverse, entire futures were disappearing. Cities that once existed were suddenly gone. Heroes who once saved the world were dying in wars that hadn't even happened yet. And somewhere beyond the edge of time, someone was responsible. Darkseid, the god of Apokolips, had begun a plan unlike anything the DC universe had ever faced, because this time, he didn't attack the present, he attacked the future. One timeline at a time, his armies spread across centuries, conquering entire eras before they could ever influence the present day. If the future was destroyed first, then no one would exist to stop him. But even Darkseid knew there was one obstacle he could never ignore: the Justice League. And so the war that would eventually become dcko, the event written by Scott Snyder and Joshua Williamson, began with a single warning, a message delivered on the Justice League Watchtower, a message that would change everything. Because when Superman returned from the future, he didn't come alone. He arrived carrying a battered and injured Booster Gold, and the message he brought was simple: Darkseid was coming back. The first signs of the crisis appeared in space, inside the Justice League Watchtower. What began as a routine security alert quickly spiraled into disaster. Deep inside the station, Mr. Terrific suddenly found himself surrounded by parademons bursting from the walls. At first, it seemed impossible. Parademons shouldn't have been able to infiltrate the Watchtower. But the truth quickly became clear. Weeks earlier, the Justice League had captured a strange parademon that appeared to possess intelligence. They thought it was a prisoner. In reality, it was a Trojan horse. Inside its body were dormant parademons waiting for the perfect moment to hatch. Now, they were everywhere. Mr. Terrific tried to seal off the Watchtower sections to contain the outbreak, but the monsters smashed through reinforced doors like they were paper. And the parademons weren't the only threat. Elsewhere on the station, another crisis was unfolding. The being known as the Time Trapper lay in the Watchtower's medical lab while Metamorpho attempted a dangerous procedure to stabilize him. But something was wrong. The Trapper's chronal energy field had begun expanding. Everything inside it was aging. Metal rusted instantly. Technology deteriorated. Entire parts of the Watchtower began collapsing as time itself accelerated around them. Suddenly, the League faced two disasters at once: a parademon invasion and a temporal collapse threatening to destroy the station from the inside. As Flash and Martian Manhunter raced through the Watchtower, trying to hold the structure together, outside the station, things were becoming even worse. Blue Beetle and Star Sapphire fought to repair the outer hull, while Steel worked to stabilize damaged systems in the vacuum of space. Then disaster struck. A surge of Omega energy ripped across the station. Steel's helmet shattered. Suddenly, she was exposed to the emptiness of space. Only a last-second force field from Star Sapphire kept her alive. Inside the Watchtower, Mr. Terrific realized something even more disturbing. The parademons weren't acting like mindless monsters. They were organized, they were thinking, they were adapting to every defense the League used against them. Meanwhile, on Earth, the situation was just as dangerous. Deep beneath the nation of Markovia, a massive pit had opened in the ground, a pit filled with black, apocalyptic fire. Power Girl, Captain Atom, and their allies investigated the phenomenon when they were suddenly attacked. Their enemies looked familiar, but twisted. The Absolute Legion had arrived. Colossal Boy grew to gigantic size and grabbed Captain Atom in his massive hands. Element Lad manipulated the elements inside Atom's own body, threatening to destroy him from the inside. Princess Projectra trapped Power Girl inside an illusion of Krypton. For a moment, it seemed perfect, but Power Girl knew better. The Krypton she remembered was gone. With one punch, she shattered the illusion and knocked Projectra unconscious. But something deeper inside the pit was calling to the heroes. Captain Atom felt a sudden surge of overwhelming rage, a madness pulling him toward the darkness. It took the combined strength of his teammates to drag him away before he jumped into the pit, because whatever was inside it was affecting their minds. Back on the Watchtower, Mr. Terrific realized the only way to stop the parademons was to weaponize the Time Trapper's unstable energy field. Flash gathered the monsters together, then blasted them with speed, force energy, straight into the chronal bubble. The effect was instant. Time accelerated around the parademons until they aged into dust. Moments later, the Time Trapper finally awoke. With a wave of his power, he reversed the damage to the Watchtower and stabilized the station. The crisis was over. But the Trapper had not come to save the Justice League. He had come to deliver a message, except now he didn't have to, because someone else had arrived to say it first. In Kansas, Superman stood in a field holding the injured body of Booster Gold. He looked toward the sky and called the Justice League together, because the future he had just witnessed was already beginning. Thousands of years before the Justice League ever existed, before Earth even knew about the stars, the seeds of the dcko war were already being planted on the distant planet Krypton. Long before its destruction, Krypton was a world obsessed with knowledge and order. But even the most advanced civilizations have secrets buried in their past. One day, two young Kryptonians decided to explore a forbidden area of their planet. Their names were Lara Lorvan and Ursa. At the time, they were simply friends exploring the ruins of an ancient facility abandoned long ago. But what they discovered inside would change the destiny of the universe. The structure they entered was not a laboratory, it was a spaceship, a relic from an era when Kryptonians traveled the galaxy and interacted with alien civilizations before those practices were banned. Inside the ruins, they found strange artifacts from other worlds, alien technologies, forbidden weapons, a Green Lantern power battery, Thanagarian wings, and carved into the walls, a symbol that didn't belong on Krypton, the Omega symbol, Darkseid's mark. But the most disturbing discovery waited deeper inside the ship, a chamber filled with data files describing a terrifying project, the creation of the ultimate weapon. At least, that's what the records seemed to say. The files described a creature engineered to survive any environment, adapt to any threat, and evolve endlessly through death itself. A being that could rise stronger after every defeat. The name of this creation was Doomsday. For centuries, Krypton believed Doomsday was a monster created by a mad scientist. But the truth was far more important, because when Lara examined the files more carefully, she realized the translation was wrong. The project had never been meant to create a weapon. The records didn't say ultimate weapon. They said something else entirely. They described Doomsday as the absolute champion, a being created for a single purpose, to defeat the greatest enemy the universe would ever face. Darkseid. In the present day, the creature Krypton created had become something very different. Doomsday, the monster who once killed Superman, was no longer simply a mindless engine of destruction. He had evolved. Now he called himself the Time Trapper, and the future he had seen terrified him. Standing inside the Watchtower, the Time Trapper explained that the war against Darkseid had already begun. But it wasn't happening in the present. It was happening across time itself. Darkseid had discovered a terrifying strategy. Instead of fighting the Justice League directly, he attacked the future, every possible future. Across countless timelines, Darkseid's armies invaded civilizations that had not yet been born. Heroes who would one day defend the universe were wiped out before they ever existed. If every future timeline was conquered, then the present would have no defenders left. The Justice League would face Darkseid alone, but it was worse than that. According to the Time Trapper's visions, every timeline was beginning to converge toward the same final outcome. No matter what the heroes did, every possible future ended with the same image: Darkseid standing victorious. To prove what he had seen, the Time Trapper did something drastic. He froze time itself. Only 3 beings were able to move: the Time Trapper, Booster Gold, and the Flash. Together, they stepped through a portal in time, and what they witnessed next would change everything. The portal carried them thousands of years into the future. The year was the 853rd century, the era of Justice Legion Alpha, the DC 1 million future. This was supposed to be an age of peace, an era where the Justice League had inspired generations of heroes who protected the universe. But when Flash and Booster Gold arrived, they saw nothing but destruction. Justice Legion Alpha fought for survival, and they were losing. Above the battlefield, armies of Darkseid soldiers poured through portals in the sky. The Legion of Darkseid had arrived. Entire cities burned beneath the attack. Advanced civilizations collapsed in minutes, and this was only one future. The Time Trapper explained the horrifying truth. Darkseid wasn't just conquering one timeline, he was conquering all of them. Across the multiverse, different versions of the future were falling one by one. The Batman Beyond era, far future space civilizations, even alternate timelines no one had ever seen before. The Legion of Darkseid was systematically destroying every possible version of tomorrow. And once the future was gone, the present would be next. Booster Gold refused to accept it. He had grown up idolizing the heroes of the past. He believed the Justice League always found a way to win, even against impossible odds. But the Time Trapper had seen too much. He had watched entire timelines burn, and he knew something Booster didn't. Darkseid's forces weren't just destroying futures for conquest. They were hunting something: energy, Omega energy. Fragments of it were scattered across time, pieces Darkseid needed to fully return, but the largest fragment was inside Booster Gold himself. Years earlier, Booster had been exposed to Omega energy. Now it lived in him, which meant if Darkseid's forces ever captured Booster, the God of Apokolips would have everything he needed to return in full power. And unfortunately, the Legion of Darkseid had already found them. While the Justice League struggled to understand the coming threat, Darkseid's influence was already spreading across Earth. The first attacks began in the oceans, deep beneath the surface of the Pacific. Aquaman sensed something wrong. Strange disturbances rolled through the water, and then the parademons arrived. A cruise ship sailing across the Pacific came under attack. Dark creatures descended from the sky, tearing through the vessel and terrorizing the passengers. But before it could become a massacre, the ocean itself rose up to fight back. Aquaman and his allies burst from the waves. The King of Atlantis had recently gained a powerful new ability, a connection to a cosmic force known as the Blue. Similar to how Swamp Thing commanded the Green, Aquaman could command the ocean itself. When the parademons attacked, Arthur unleashed the full power of the sea. Massive waves slammed into the creatures. Water spiraled into a raging maelstrom around the ship, and within seconds, the parademons were defeated. But the victory didn't last. Some of the monsters escaped, and Aquaman followed them. Deep underwater, the parademons led him to a massive cavern beneath the ocean floor. And what Arthur discovered there was terrifying. They weren't just invading Earth, they were building something. A massive apocalyptic fire pit, just like the one beneath Markovia. All across the planet, Darkseid's forces were creating these structures. portals, gateways connecting Earth directly to Apokolips, which meant Darkseid's armies could arrive anywhere on Earth at any moment. The invasion had already begun, but Darkseid still wasn't ready to appear, because his true plan required something else, something far more dangerous, a war between heroes. While heroes fought parademons and investigated the fire pits, another discovery quietly moved the universe toward disaster. Because on Krypton, Lara and Ursa hadn't just uncovered Doomsday's origin. They found something else. Deep inside that Kryptonian ruin was a sealed chamber marked with the Omega symbol. Inside was an object pulsing with living apocalyptian power, the Heart of Apokolips. And even in the distant past, it whispered the same truth the universe had heard for millennia. Darkseid is. The artifact proved something terrifying. Darkseid's influence had reached Krypton long before its destruction, and the heart would not remain hidden forever. Eventually, it would resurface, and when it did, Earth itself would become Darkseid's battlefield, because the Heart of Apokolips had one purpose: to create an arena worthy of gods, the stage for dcko. And the heart would do more than power the tournament. It would speak, it would narrate, it would judge, because the heart knows who wins. It knows who bleeds, and it knows who will be crowned. At first glance, dcko looked like a cosmic competition, heroes and villains forced into an elimination bracket. But the truth was far more complicated. The tournament didn't begin as Darkseid's idea. After witnessing a future where Darkseid had already conquered the universe, the Justice League and the Quantum Quorum realized time had been rewound only 7 days. They had one final chance to change the outcome. The Quorum explained that the universe runs on two opposing forces: Alpha Energy, the power of creation, and Omega Energy, the power of death and control. Darkseid had already begun transforming reality using Omega Energy, and deep within Earth itself, a new engine of that power had started to form: the Heart of Apokolips. Batman realized that if the heart already existed, it might be possible to use it against Darkseid, but the Quorum warned them what that would mean. Restarting the heart with Omega Energy wouldn't simply empower a hero. It would reshape reality itself. The heart would begin testing the strongest beings in existence, forcing them into trials of strength and survival until one champion remained. A tournament. The winner would become a new King Omega, powerful enough to challenge Darkseid and reshape the universe. It was a terrible idea, but it might also be their only chance. So, the League made the decision. They would restart the heart. Booster Gold, already infused with Omega Energy after years trapped with Darkseid, would fire the blast needed to awaken it. When he did, the Earth itself transformed. Reality warped, cities shifted, landscapes twisted into battlegrounds. The Heart of Apokolips had begun its work, and the dcko tournament was born. Once Earth became the arena, the fights began. Battles erupted across the planet between the most powerful beings in the DC universe. Heroes fought villains, rivals clashed, and sometimes friends were forced into combat. Every clash sent surges of power into the Heart of Apokolips. Darkseid's plan worked perfectly. The strongest warriors on Earth were unknowingly fueling the return of a god, but the Justice League sensed the trap. Why were heroes being forced into fights they never agreed to? Why did the arena feel alive? And why did every victory feel like it cost something? Because Darkseid wasn't just watching. He was waiting for the bracket to do what it always does: leave only one person standing. Then the worst truth surfaced. Darkseid wasn't just behind the tournament. He was inside it, using the body of one of their own. Booster Gold. His eyes turned red with Omega Fire. His presence was a mask, a Trojan horse on a cosmic scale. And the moment the heroes realized it, the tournament stopped being a competition. It became a hunt. Because if Darkseid reached the final round, the universe wouldn't get a winner. It would get a god. The battlefield erupted into chaos. Prime champions clashed with their absolute counterparts. Superman against absolute Superman. Wonder Woman against absolute Wonder Woman. Batman against absolute Batman. The Heart of Apokolips warped fighters, reshaped them, punished them, rewarded them, whatever kept the blood moving. And then the mask finally dropped. Darkseid abandoned Booster's body. A gigantic Darkseid rose beneath red skies to face the remaining champions. The heroes attacked with everything they had. It didn't matter. Darkseid vaporized them with Omega power. In an instant, almost everyone was gone. Only Superman remained standing, and Darkseid stopped. Not because he was merciful, because he was finished. He didn't need to kill Superman. He needed the tournament to decide a winner. So, he waited, motionless, watching the last pieces of the bracket snap into place. Superman saw Lex. Lex had survived, and for a split second, Superman believed the impossible, that maybe they could still do this together. Lex didn't believe in together. Lex understood the heart, the rules, the crown. Darkseid was waiting for one person to take it. So Lex did what Lex Luthor always does. He made the winning move. He turned and blasted Superman with the last remaining energy in his war suit, killing him. And in that moment, Lex Luthor declared himself the new King Omega. The tournament had a winner. The heart had a champion. And Darkseid got what he wanted most. Proof that even at the end of the universe, someone will always choose power over mercy. But the heart's visions had one final warning. A small image almost no one noticed. The Time Trapper. Because even when a king is crowned, time doesn't stop. And the war that created dcko, it doesn't end with the tournament. It ends with what comes after. Lex Luthor thinks the story is over. He stands on New Apokolips, drunk on victory because he did it. He beat Superman. He took the power, and the Heart of Apokolips recognizes him as King Omega. But the heart doesn't celebrate. It orders him, gather your power, take the heart into yourself, adopt a new form, and fight Darkseid for the crown. Because dcko was never just a tournament, it was a machine, turning conflict into godhood. And Lex believes he was born to win it. Then something breaks in the flow. Somewhere between Superman's death and his imprisonment, Clark remembers a moment that shouldn't be possible. Game night, Lois, Bruce, Diana. Only this time, it doesn't feel like memory. It feels like a room built around him, a pocket of time holding its breath. And when Superman turns his head, he sees the last being he ever expected to find there, the Time Trapper, Doomsday. He tells Clark the truth. This isn't the past. It's a pocket timeline, a refuge he created because he couldn't trust anyone. Not the Quantum Quorum, not the League, because one of them was a Darkseid agent, and it was Booster Gold. Clark asks the question that matters, why me? And the Time Trapper answers with the oldest truth of their lives. You and I are trapped in a cycle, death and rebirth, destroyer and survivor. But then he reframes everything. He was never meant to destroy Superman. He was meant to save him, so Superman could destroy Darkseid, and now he's ready to break the cycle for good. He reveals the missing piece, Alpha Energy, the opposite of Omega, the force of beginnings. He's been carrying both, Omega and Alpha. So he makes the offer that turns the monster into a martyr. He will transfer everything into Superman, enough to make him the true King Omega. And the cost is final. If he does this, Doomsday dies forever. No resurrection, no next form, no next cycle, just an ending, chosen. And in a moment that feels like myth, Doomsday tears open his robes, tattered cloth forming the S shield across his chest. then unleashes every lifetime he's lived and pours it into Superman like a sun going supernova. Back on New Apokolips, Lex is still posing as the champion, until the Heart senses what's coming, and in the next breath, Lex Luthor is turned to dust. No speech, no rematch, just erased, because Superman has returned. And this time, he doesn't come back as a man, he comes back as the answer. He pulls the Heart of Apokolips into his chest and becomes the fully fledged King Omega, growing until he matches Darkseid in size. The battle detonates across reality. Even with godhood, Superman can't overpower Darkseid, so he retreats through time, past and future, until Darkseid corners him at the only place left, the Big Bang. And the Heart thinks Superman has made a mistake. But Clark wanted this, because the Big Bang contains everything that ever was and ever will be. So Superman absorbs it, becoming something higher than a god, something closer to reality itself. He fights Darkseid for millions of years in seconds, and then says the line that flips the entire event. "I'm not playing anymore." The Heart panics, begging for a winner, for the game to continue. But Superman refuses the perfect universe built around one champion. So he does the most Superman thing possible. He tags in his friends. He brings back everyone who fell in the tournament. Because winning doesn't mean one person stands above the rest. Winning means everyone gets a second chance. Darkseid is blown to ash and scattered into the cosmos. And Superman says the truth out loud. They don't need a King Omega, because when only one person wins, none of them do. So, he performs one final act of creation. He unwinds his perfect universe into a single point, Omega back to Alpha, and releases it into the prime world like a storm of new beginnings. And when the dust settles, we return to something small again. A game night. Lois keeps playing, because it's what Clark would want. But Batman can't shake the feeling. They stopped Darkseid for now, but the game never really stopped. Alpha and Omega energies are leaking into the world. New powers, new threats, new players, and far away, Darkseid watches from the absolute universe. Down, but not out. Because the Omega tournament didn't happen on one Earth. It happened across an infinite multiverse. And that means only one thing. A bigger crisis is coming. One of absolute proportions.